My name is Jake, and I know every inch of my local Walmart. Or at least, I thought I did. It was late, nearly closing time, and I had stopped in for a quick snack. The store was quiet, the fluorescent lights buzzing softly overhead. I grabbed a bag of chips and started toward the checkout when I saw it, an aisle I had never seen before. It was at the far end of the store, where I knew there should have been a back wall. But now, there was a narrow passage between the shelves, leading deeper into the store. The overhead sign was blank, the lights inside dimmer than the rest of the store. The air smelled stale, like dust and something faintly metallic. Curiosity got the better of me. I stepped in. The shelves were oddly tall, stretching up far higher than they should have. Each one was stocked with unfamiliar items, brands I had never heard of, packaging that looked decades old. As I moved deeper, the sound of the store faded behind me. The aisle stretched endlessly in both directions. I turned to leave. The entrance was gone. Panic settled into my chest. I spun around, trying to retrace my steps, but every turn led me deeper. The shelves began to close in, the lights flickering. My footsteps echoed strangely, like the floor was hollow. Then I heard it, a low, shuffling sound. I wasn't alone. Something moved between the aisles. At first, just a shadow at the edge of my vision. Then, closer. I caught glimpses of it, long limbs, too many joints, hollow, stretching fingers grazing the shelves as it moved. I ran. The aisles twisted unnaturally, rearranging themselves as I sprinted. The shelves were empty now, the old packaging replaced by rows of identical black boxers with no labels. The lights dimmed further until I could barely see. My breath came in sharp gasps as I rounded a corner, and there it was, the entrance. Without hesitation, I lunged through it, stumbling back into the normal, brightly lit store. My heart pounded as I turned to look behind me. The aisle was gone, just a solid wall where it had been. I staggered to the front, paid for my chips without a word, and left. As I stepped outside into the cool night air, I glanced back through the glass doors, and for just a second, at the very back of the store, I saw a narrow passageway, waiting. My name is Emily, and I've always hated mannequins. Something about their frozen expressions and lifeless eyes makes my skin crawl. But after what I saw last night, I don't think I'll ever step into a clothing store again. It started when I stopped by Walmart late at night to pick up a few things. The store was quiet, the aisles nearly empty, except for a few employees stocking shelves. As I made my way past the clothing section, I noticed the mannequins. There were 5 of them, arranged in a neat row, all dressed in the same dull, generic outfits. But something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. Then I realized they were all facing me. I swore I had walked past them from the side just moments before. A chill crept up my spine, but I brushed it off as paranoia. I kept walking, grabbing what I needed. When I passed the clothing section again, I froze. The mannequins had moved. Now, they were positioned differently, one of them closer to the aisle. I stared at them, my pulse quickening. Maybe an employee had rearranged them while I wasn't looking. That had to be it, right? I turned away, trying to shake off the unease. But as I made my way toward self-checkout, I glanced over my shoulder. One of them was missing. Panic set in. I scanned the store, my breath coming in short gasps. The employees were still stocking shelves, acting like nothing was wrong. But I knew one of them had moved. Then I heard the sound, a faint, almost imperceptible scrape like plastic dragging against tile. I turned toward the noise, and my stomach dropped. The missing mannequin was standing in the next aisle. It wasn't just placed there, it was positioned differently. One arm slightly raised, its head tilted, as if it had been caught mid-step. I ran. I abandoned my cart and sprinted toward the exit. My heart pounded as the automatic doors refused to open fast enough. Just before I stepped outside, I made the mistake of looking back. The mannequins were now all at the front of the store, lined up in a perfect row, facing me, and their heads had turned to follow me. My name is Mark, and I swear I spoke to someone who didn't exist. It was late, just past midnight, when I stopped at Walmart for some last-minute groceries. The place was nearly empty, save for a few tired employees stocking shelves. The overhead lights flickered slightly, but I barely noticed as I wandered through the aisles, grabbing what I needed. That's when I saw him, a Walmart employee, standing near the end of the cereal aisle. He was tall, thin, with a blank expression. His uniform was faded, the name tag unreadable. But when I asked him where to find the coffee, he gave me a slow nod and pointed toward the back of the store. "Thanks, man," I said, turning to follow his direction. As I walked away, I realized something odd. His name tag didn't have a name, just scratches, like something had scraped away the letters. A chill crawled down my spine, but I shook it off and kept moving. When I reached the coffee aisle, I grabbed my usual brand and turned back toward the front. That's when I saw him again, standing by the frozen foods, the same vacant stare, the same faded uniform. I froze. There was no way he could have moved that fast. I hadn't heard footsteps, hadn't seen him walk past me, but there he was, watching me. I quickened my pace, heading for self-checkout, my heartbeat drumming in my ears. I scanned my items, eager to leave, when I noticed the cashier giving me an odd look. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, forcing a laugh. "It's just weird night. That guy over there freaked me out." I nodded toward the employee by frozen foods. She frowned. "What guy?" I turned back. He was gone. The aisle was empty. A cold wave of dread washed over me. "He was just there," I insisted. "I even talked to him." She hesitated, her face palling. "Sir, there's no one working here who matches that description." I opened my mouth to argue, but something stopped me. The store's security monitor was behind the cashier, showing a grainy black and white feed of the aisles. I could see myself walking through the store, talking to no one. The cashier followed my gaze, her expression darkening. "You should go." I didn't need to be told twice. As I stepped out into the parking lot, my heart still hammering, I looked back at the store. The fluorescent lights buzzed above, the aisles eerily empty, and then, just for a moment, I saw him again, standing just inside the glass doors. But this time, he was smiling. "My name is Lisa, and I will never step foot in a Walmart after closing time again." It started with a simple errand. I had left work late and needed a few things, so I stopped by Walmart before heading home. The store was nearly empty, the fluorescent lights buzzing softly above as I wandered through the aisles, enjoying the quiet. Then the first announcement came over the intercom. "Attention shoppers. The store will be closing in 10 minutes. I glanced at my phone. 11:50 p.m. That made sense. I hurried to grab my last few items before heading to the self-checkout. Then another announcement. "Attention shoppers. The store will be closing in 10 minutes. The same words, the same flat, artificial tone. But something was wrong. I checked my phone again. It was now 11:55. 5 minutes had passed. I frowned, looking around. The store was empty except for one employee near the front, stacking shelves. He didn't seem to react to the announcement. Then the intercom crackled to life again. "Attention shoppers. The store will be closing in 10 minutes. I shivered. My stomach twisted in unease. It was the exact same message, the exact same tone, like a recording stuck on repeat. I hurried to the self-checkout, scanning my items as quickly as possible. The speakers buzzed again. "Attention shoppers. The store will be closing in 10 minutes. The time on my phone read 12:03 a.m. The store should have already closed. I turned toward the employee at the front. "Hey, is something wrong with the announcements?" He didn't respond. He didn't move. I stepped closer, dread curling in my chest. His body was rigid, his back to me as he faced the automatic doors. I reached out hesitantly, my fingers grazing his shoulder. He toppled forward, like a mannequin. A hollow thud echoed through the store as he hit the ground, his limbs stiff, his head rolling unnaturally to the side. My breath caught in my throat. He wasn't real. He had never been real. The intercom crackled again. "Attention shoppers." I bolted for the exit. The automatic doors didn't open. I slammed my hands against the glass, my reflection staring back at me in the dim glow of the store's lights. Behind me, the shelves trembled. The overhead lights flickered wildly. The mannequins in the clothing section turned one by one to face me. The intercom buzzed louder, distorting into an inhuman screech, then silence. The doors slid open. I ran. When I reached my car, my hands were shaking so badly, I could barely get the keys into the ignition. As I peeled out of the parking lot, I saw the store in my rearview mirror. Every light inside had gone dark, but the intercom was still on, still whispering, and somehow, I knew it would never stop. "My name is David, and I don't go to Walmart after midnight anymore." It was supposed to be a quick trip. I had run out of coffee and figured I'd stop by the 24-hour Walmart before heading home. The store was nearly empty, the usual hum of activity replaced by a quiet, artificial stillness. The only sound was the faint, distorted music playing over the intercom. Then I saw him, a man standing at the far end of aisle 13. He was tall, dressed in dark, oversized clothes. His head was tilted slightly, like he was listening for something. His hands hung limply at his sides. He wasn't looking at anything on the shelves, he was just standing there. I ignored him at first, grabbing my coffee and heading toward the checkout. But as I passed another aisle, something made my stomach twist. He was there, the same man, the same stance, the same tilted head. I stopped in my tracks, my breath catching. There was no way he could have moved that fast. I shook off the unease, convincing myself I was just tired. But then, as I walked past the frozen foods section, I saw him again, closer now. He was standing at the entrance of the aisle. Same lifeless posture, same empty stare. But this time, he was facing me. A chill ran down my spine. My instincts screamed at me to leave. But I hesitated long enough to see something that made my blood run cold. He didn't blink, not once. I turned and power walked toward the self-checkout, refusing to look back. The fluorescent lights above buzzed louder, almost like they were reacting to my fear. My hands shook as I scanned my items, tapping the screen frantically. Then, over the intercom, a voice crackled to life. "Attention shoppers, aisle 13 is now closed." I glanced up, my stomach twisting into knots. He was at the exit, standing between me and the doors. The automatic doors didn't open. He didn't move. He just stood there, head still tilted, waiting. My heart pounded as I turned, looking for another way out. That's when I saw the security guard watching me from behind the counter. His face was pale, his eyes filled with something between fear and pity. He lifted a hand and motioned subtly toward the back entrance. I didn't hesitate. I bolted through the aisles, knocking over displays as I ran. The storage door was already propped open, as if someone had expected me. I rushed through it, sprinting out into the cold night air. When I turned back, the store was silent. The man was gone. The next day, I drove past the Walmart, trying to convince myself I had imagined everything. But as I glanced toward the entrance, my breath caught in my throat. The store had boarded up aisle 13, no explanation, no warning, just a sign that read, "Do not enter."